So you should all be really proud of your projects. You are all truly doing amazing things to impact and change this world. And so the winning project from the voting is Anthony and his project. You guys can all make it to your seats now. Can we get an intern? Alrighty, so next. As the founder and CEO of Count Me In, Shane Feldman is a visionary behind the world's largest youth-led movement. Over the past decade, Count Me In has inspired tens of thousands of youth-led volunteer projects worldwide, equating to over 100 million hours of community service, reaching a net worth of $2.4 billion. Shane has something going on his documentary TV series from A&E. Here is Shane Feldman.
So cool to be here. I'm going to try and balance in between the pillars so that it works for everyone, and hopefully that works for the stream as well, because I want to see people's faces. My story really begins my first day of high school, but in order to give you a better understanding of that day, I think it's important to lay the groundwork with some context. So when I was 4 years old, my parents got divorced, and I started moving around a lot with my mom. And as a kid, it was the coolest thing because I feel like I lived in the coolest places. I lived above a bank, next to a forest, next to a cemetery. That was the coolest. I had the best Halloween parties. Picture this, scavenger hunt in the cemetery, right? I was the most popular 7-year-old in my class. It was amazing. And every move was a new adventure. I loved it. It kept life interesting and exciting, kept me on my toes, and it also kind of distracted me from all the harder things going on in my life. And that was great, and it was all fun until the move that came the summer before my freshman year of high school. Because that move meant I was about to start this new big scary adventure without a single friend by my side. So any excitement I did have about high school quickly disappeared, turned to fear. I was terrified to start at my new school. That summer flew by faster than any other, and suddenly it was here, my first day. I remember waking up that morning and just giving myself this great pep talk as I walked through the big, massive glass doors of my new school. I was just telling myself, it's gonna be great, you're gonna make new friends, totally fit in, have tons of fun, it's gonna be just like High School Musical. And I took my first step into my first day of freshman year, channeling every ounce of Zac Efron that I could. And I stepped into one of the hardest, worst days of my life. And the hardest part wasn't walking into the school, it wasn't even my first class, it was lunch. And not like the Hollywood version of lunch where you stand there awkwardly with a tray of questionable food, not knowing what table to sit at. That wasn't it at all. The moment the lunch bell rang, I stepped out of class, and the hallway was instantly filled with all these circles, like all these groups of students. People who had probably known each other for months or years. I'm surrounded now by 1,500 students at this massive high school, and I just feel completely alone. So what do? Being the tough, confident kid that I am, I puff out my chest, roam down the hallway, find an empty corner, pull out my phone, and call my mom. And I'm begging her to let me come home. Like, leave school, please. Like, I'll do the laundry, I'll do the dishes, I'll paint your toenails, please. Let me come home. And my mom calms me down and basically says, it's just a bad first day, a bad first impression, it's gonna get better. And in my infinite teenage wisdom, I respond, well, duh, it can't possibly get any worse. Except it does. I mean, nothing tragic happens per se, but each day just feels harder and longer. And I'm just walking through the hallways feeling alone and invisible, walking alone outside of my lunch break because I have no one to talk to, nothing better to do. And I started waking up in the morning, and it just felt like I had swallowed this 1,000-pound weight the night before. And I woke up and I just remember my entire body was like telling me to just stay in bed. Everything in me was saying, you know, Shane, life just isn't worth getting out of bed for today. And after weeks of feeling trapped in this black hole of emptiness, of feeling disconnected and so deeply lonely. I decided the school must be the problem. I decided I must have landed in the worst high school in the country or the world, and maybe if I was at a different school, life wouldn't suck so much. So I walked into my school counselor's office, I looked at him, I said, "Mr. Conte, I hate it here. This is the wrong school for me, please help me transfer. Anywhere else would be better than here." And I was just hoping desperately that Mr. Conte was going to say, "No problem." Shane opened his desk drawer, pull out the big book of schools, and point to the new one he was going to send me to. But shockingly, no book was pulled out. Instead, Mr. Conte just looks at me and says, "You know, Shane, I don't really know you. So why don't you start by telling me about yourself? What do you like to do? What are some of your hobbies, your interests?" And all I'm thinking is this is a complete waste of time, but this is the only person standing between me and a transfer, so I better answer his questions. So I'm just trying to think of any interests, any hobbies that I have. I start listing them off, and he's taking all these notes. At the end of the meeting, he says before he's going to talk about a transfer, he needs me to sign up for all these clubs that he feels matches my interests and my hobbies. So again, some lousy formality I feel like I have to kick out of the way in order to get this transfer. So I go and sign up and start going to these clubs. And looking back, I'm still shocked at how much of an impact it actually made, because it was something so simple, just signing up and showing up to some clubs and councils and joining some teams. But each one seemed to be a little bit better than the last. And it wasn't like my life changed overnight, but within a couple days I realized I was actually talking to a couple people in the halls because I'd made a couple friends. And I was smiling just a little bit more. And suddenly in the morning, the 1,000-pound weight was 800 pounds, and then 500, and then 200. And after a week or two, it was gone. I was actually looking forward to my day. There was this huge shift, and I realized that the only reason I felt like an outsider before is because I was acting like one. Because the only thing that changed was that I put myself on the inside. And plugging into my community changed everything. The more I get involved, the better my life feels. The more I get involved, the more fun I'm having. The more I get involved, the more friends I'm making. And it gets to the point where all I want is to share this amazing feeling. And I realized the more I was getting involved that there were so many students in my school who were not involved in anything. And all I kept thinking was, they don't even realize what they're missing out on, how much awesome is right in front of them if they just plugged in and signed up for one thing. So I had this idea to plan this school assembly to motivate students in my school to get involved, and then have this like after party, this opportunity fair afterwards to actually match students with clubs and councils that were the right fit for them, kind of like Mr. Conte helped me do. The goal is for 50 students to attend this assembly. The day came, and 386 students from 7 schools showed up. And that was the first event. And I just realized, this is something that students actually want. This is something that students need. I thought it was going to be 50 kids from my own school, and I realized really quickly it could be something so much bigger than that. So I got together a group of my friends, we started planning the next event, and the next event, 1,000 students from 30 schools showed up. And it just kept growing into programs and curriculum and events, and it was so crazy. The more we were able to give students what they wanted, the more this grew as a nonprofit, as a brand, as a movement. Today, a decade later, Count Me In is now 10.2 million students strong in 104 countries. And all of it started as this tiny school project back in high school. And it's incredible watching the organization grow and evolve over time. But a few years ago, I started to feel like a little bit of a fraud. And my main issue was, since I was a teenager, all I had done was work with teenagers. And I know I still look like one, but I'm not one. And it was so frustrating because part of my job is I'm a speaker. And I spend a lot of time speaking not only for companies and organizations, but speaking in schools. And literally, to this day, 8 times out of 10, I walk into a school and I'm handed a late slip before I can get out that I'm the speaker for the day. I'm not late for school. And it was driving me crazy, not because I'm insecure about my looks, I used to be, but more so because I just didn't feel like a teenager, and I realized that there was such a disconnect. Even though I'm only in my mid-20s, I realized that it is so different to be a teenager now than when I was starting high school just a decade ago. So I had this kind of burning desire to really gain a better understanding for what it was like to be a teenager today. Because I work with them, because my team is made up primarily of teenagers. So I stepped away from my job at Count Me In, I took a sabbatical, I took off a year and a bit. Got together an incredible team of curriculum developers, teachers, parents, psychologists, therapists, and took on what has now been called the most in-depth research project the American education system has ever seen. Because you see, what I did was I went back to high school, undercover as a student. And I traveled the country going to high schools. One school in particular, I spent 4 months in deep cover, and the teachers didn't know, the students didn't know. The principal knew, someone on the board, but that was it. And I was there doing the homework, doing the tests, going to parties, and realizing what it was actually like to be a teenager. And I figured this was going to be a great way for me to observe, to learn, and to be an even better leader of this movement, to connect better with teenagers. But what I didn't realize was that it was far different and far more difficult to be a teenager now than when I was growing up, when I was in high school, not that many years ago. And the biggest change is that when I was there, you know, the main problem was you had to deal with peer pressure, bullying, social isolation in the school hallways, day in and day out. But now, it's not just the school hallways, it's the digital hallways. And that just wasn't the same when I was in high school the first time. And now I was realizing that there's this whole other world that teenagers are growing up in. And I will go on record saying it is harder to be a teenager today than ever before. You know, adults in the room, you may have had to walk uphill both ways to school. But now what's happening offline and online, it's a whole different universe that kids have to deal with. The thing is, the harder it is to be a teenager, the more powerful you are as a teenager. And being in this room, it's such a privilege and honor just being surrounded by people who are making such an impact, not only in the physical hallways, but in those digital hallways that are more important than ever to make positive, to delete that negativity, and more importantly, to reinforce positivity in those digital spaces. So the number one thing I want to leave you with is knowing that whatever project you're working on, whatever you've done in the past, don't limit yourself based on your age or what you feel you can accomplish. Because if you think about the building we're in right now, you know, the fact that Google exists, you know, the fact that these projects exist, that there were just ideas in your head, maybe when you were a freshman, maybe before you were a freshman, maybe when you were 8 years old, right? Where you can go, where you can take it, there's absolutely no limit. People are going to try and tell you there's limits. People are going to try to tell you it's not going to work. I can't tell you how many people tried to tell me, just, you know, do something normal, right? Just focus on the test, and maybe when you're done high school, maybe when you're done college, then go work on that thing. If I didn't feed my passion then, I wouldn't be standing here today. I wouldn't have the gratitude that I have, and 10 million students around the world wouldn't have been impacted by the brand that I started and poured my heart and soul into. So keep doing what you're doing because it's making a genuine impact, and just surround yourself with people that want to feed your passion and encourage you and challenge you to keep on going. Thank you all for what you're doing. It's making a huge difference.
Okay, hi everybody, we're back for our final breakout group of the day, and today we're going to be, well, in this breakout group we're going to be talking about different polarizing statements and what's okay on social media.
So in this breakout session, we're going to have topics that are going to be on the screen. If you're a tech industry person in the group, you have a hard copy. If you don't, we have a couple extras floating around, so just let us know. Everything will be on the screen though. So the tech person can kind of answer some questions about the technology side of the problem. So for example, our first one is fake news. And so basically you're just going to get a conversation going about what fake news is, what's the tech side of it, if that tech person has any answers relating to that.
So the topic will come up on the screen, and then Morgan and I can read it, and then you guys will have 5 minutes to discuss the topic and ask any questions and kind of get a discussion going, like why is fake news a thing? Like why can't it be taken down? So just different questions that you might have for your group.
Okay, so we're going to have you get into your small breakout group, so buy cereal. Once you've found your group, please find a seat or an area with chairs, and you can move your chairs this time to be in a little circle, because this one is a longer breakout session. So find your group, and then find an area to sit with your serial group.
Hey, adults, you're actually going to go in the hallway, please. Adults, you guys going to go in the hallway?
No. I'm gonna go around. Or we could just like grab a couple chairs.
You can just pull it just around there, yeah. Watch out. You're gonna see it. Go back around.
kids from all different educational backgrounds and where they were in their schooling. And it was really interesting to hear them talk, because we all kind of were saying the same thing. We were talking about cyberbullying, we were talking about this, we were talking about that, and they were all the same across all the different grade levels. But it was interesting how the different ways we tried to solve them were so different, because we were trying to cater to different ages. So that was really eye-opening about how different ages is a different way to solve problems, but we're all trying to solve the same problem.
Yeah, and I guess that's complex for companies of how to have one set of terms of service that applies on a global scale when sometimes the problems are different fits for different groups of people, but that's interesting. Great, well thank you all so much. Nice to be here today.
And thank you, Jennifer, for being with us today.
Okay, so now moving right on along, we have an activity for everyone. Another activity presented by Jess Hallmeyer from Fair Play Alliance. So if I can have Jess come up, please.
So we have a little fun activity prepared for you as well, in a way a little bit similar to the last one we just did, which is the idea is just to get your brains working even more and think around topics a little bit like maybe from different angles. Maybe first of all a few words on who the Fair Play Alliance is, in case you're wondering. So the Fair Play Alliance is a new association or organization that has formed within the gaming industry to particularly tackle disruptive behavior in games. So we are all like I think by now we're like 80 different representatives from like a bunch of gaming companies, from Blizzard, Riot, Niantic, Supercell, Rovio, you name it, and we're all kind of sharing knowledge with each other in terms of how to actually enforce positive behavior in games and how to combat negative behavior. So that's just a few words on who we are. And there's Carlos and Lynette there in the background, hello, who are also members of the Fair Play Alliance. So we're going to play a mental model game, and I'll very briefly explain because we don't have a lot of time. So a mental model is basically an explanation of someone's thought process about how something works in the real world. So everybody has a mental model about all sorts of things. That's how your brain works. Your brain needs to categorize things to be able to deal with all of this craziness in the world. So everybody has a mental model of what a chair looks like, right? Like if I say chair, you know what that most likely looks like, something you can sit on. So another example would be, what is a mental model of a great birthday party? Well, my mental model of a great birthday party is I get shitloads of presents, some of my friends show up, and there's awesome music. So that would be my mental model of a birthday party. But obviously mental models can be different because we are different. So, you know, somebody might think of strawberries as red and juicy and sweet and really awesome in taste, and somebody who's maybe allergic to strawberries doesn't think that way, right? So that's just kind of in the next exercise. I want you guys to share your mental models on certain things and discuss that with each other. And to make it a little bit more fun, we have 4 different presentation modes, or more or less 3. So we'll probably won't have time for all of the different groups to come up on stage and present their mental model exercise. But we thought that it would be really fun if you could, at the end of the exercise, record it and then share it, for example, on Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or wherever. So you would just do a quick recording of your group and then share what your mental model is of ... So now comes the interesting part, because I just started quickly putting you people into groups, but as you can see, I didn't get very far. So, so these are the questions we're going to discuss. So we have 6, from what I remember, we have 13 groups, and we have 6 questions. So some groups are going to discuss the same questions. But just to quickly go through, what is your mental model of a good sport, of a good game, match, battle? Then what's your mental model of fair play, bullying, disruptive behavior, and support? So those are the questions. And now I just need to make sure that I put you guys into groups, so give me a second. So you know what to do. 1 second.
While Jess is doing that, I want to make a little plug for the Snapchat filter for those of you who weren't there yesterday. Check it out. There's a Digital for Good Snapchat filter. Please use it.
Yeah, if you're already up there, if your group is already up there, you can. We still need to give them the way of what they need to do, though. Do I have all of the groups now? No. Sorry. Oh, Fruit Loops is twice.
Mini weeks, M-I-N-I. W-H-E-A-T-S. H. Wheat. Like a wheat. Wheat. Wheat.
All right, hold on. So Fruit Loops. Hold on. This is going to take really long and will give you lots of time to actually do the activity. Fruit Loops, you will... 4. Fruit Loops, you got the wild card, so you can choose which one you want to do. Next one we have Fiber 1. So watch out, Fiber 1. It just keeps on doing 4. 3. Or you just pick, yeah, maybe that's faster. All right, so we have rhyme, draw, debate, or whichever one you want to do. And I'll keep putting these back up so you can see what we're going to discuss. Does this make any sense to you guys? Okay, all right, let's do it. Let's get into our groups and let's start.
Okay. So we did mental model support, and we decided to do the wildcard acted out demonstration. And these are just some key factors you need in order to help support one another throughout your day, we decided. Listening.
Understanding.
Acceptance.
Empathy.
Not sympathy.
Now turn to one another and give someone around you a hug.
The other schools never. Yeah. So it's always like big brother trying to get.
Okay, now I would like to call up Jeff Collins and Finn Jacobson.
Hey guys, my name is Jeff Collins and I work at the After School app, and along with Finn, who I'll hand this to for a quick introduction.
Yeah, I am Finn Jacobson, and I am an ICANHELP intern from Portland, Oregon.
So we have been tasked with giving some wrap-up, concluding thoughts on the day. So we're going to be pretty quick here, and what I want to leave you with is we are all living through a really amazing time in history. Communications technology has really transformed the way we live our lives. So we saw this in our exercises today. In a lot of ways, it's created things that are great for us. It's easier to get around, we can get help in a faster way, we can send a message to someone at work in a much more efficient manner. But at the same time, as someone said today, there's a dark side. And we all know that technology that we use has a lot of possibility to enable negativity. So that could be bullying. We've seen in the news massive political polarization that's brought about by the way we consume our news, the way we share our opinions. And I think where we go next is really uncertain. So this is where you guys come in. You have grown up as a generation that uses social media, that understands this technology, and I think because of that, you are incredibly well suited to really drive change in our society and the way we use technology to really change people's attitudes about how we communicate with one another. So what's the best way to do this? Well, I think the answer is simple. It's really to do more of what you guys are all doing. So the projects we heard about today are really visionary and inspiring and incredible. They show things like courage, And I think of the 4 students from San Joaquin Valley who are working to tackle trafficking in prison, sex trafficking, an issue that's very important but often kind of overlooked and right below the surface. Claudia's campaign for state representative, a 20-year-old running for office, I mean, that says it all. She's stepping up to the plate, putting her money where her mouth is, and really working to achieve change. They show things like creative thinking. I think the Offline October campaign is really cool. It's addressing something that we've all been touched by, teenage suicide, in a somewhat unique way. And they show compassion, like the project to provide funding for tutoring and assistive tech for dyslexic kids. So moving forward, what can you guys do to further the impact you're having? So I want to just leave you with a few thoughts and I'll turn it over to Finn. So the first thing I think is to stay engaged. I think our real challenge, all of us, is not opposition, it's apathy. Too many people ignore these issues, so continue to stay engaged. Second, don't take no for an answer. So many times in your life, you'll think there's a roadblock you can't get past, someone will say no. Think creatively, think of workarounds. There's often a way to accomplish something when someone says no. Third, connect with other movements and try to leverage your strengths. So the importance of networks can't really be understated. It's probably one of the best ways to grow what you're doing. So this is a perfect place to do this. Try to continue after with people at other schools, other communities, other states. Fourth, try to embed your projects in your school or your community so they're sustainable. So I've met with a lot of you who are doing this, you're passing on projects to other people. Don't just do it as a one-off. Try to keep them going, make sure they're sustainable. And fifth and last, don't hesitate to reach out to parents, teachers, mentors. You'll often be very surprised when you ask for someone for help, what you'll get. And then truly last but not least, I just wanted to say, I think the most important thing is to never lose your idealism, your hope, your curiosity, and your belief that you can make a difference. I think what we see here today is that you can and you will. So now over to Finn.
Yeah, beautifully said. So what I wanted to say is that, and I'm talking to everybody in the room here, not just the winners, I am so proud of, we as ICANHELP are so proud of you for being here today and for willing to spend a day of your time to hear these students' stories and to share some of your own and to come here to learn. You've made it a great day. So highlights, now I'm talking to the winners. Sorry, I'll go into highlights in a second. I want you to be reassured that every single one of you deserves to be here. I know we had a winner, congratulations, Anthony. But every single one of you are here because you sought out to make a change, and you should feel proud of that every single living moment. So, on to the highlights. I think we had a really, really great event. Food, anybody? Like the food? Let's give some love to that, yeah? I think we had some amazing speakers and amazing, amazing stories from all of the students. I am so overwhelmingly proud of all of you for being here. And I also want to acknowledge some of the background work. You know, if you look back to that little wall right there, behind that poster there is a lounge, and there have been a lot of interns back there all day doing a lot of work to make sure that this event's going smoothly. So can we give a little love to them? Yeah. And overall, I think that we have made this a fantastic Digital for Good event. And every single one of you, I'm not even talking to the winners anymore, although you guys are amazing. After going to this event, you truly all can go home and say that you did help. Thank you.
Okay, so now we have the winners of our giveaway. So we have So I'll announce it right now, but then you can come claim your prize later after we're done with everything. So we have, so the autographed helmet goes to Brandon. Yeah, it does. You can come get it after. You can get it after. And then we have a year's supply of Sharpies that we're giving away, and that goes to Riley Ann on Instagram. I don't know if, can you raise your hand, please? Okay, and then we also have a 1-year subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud, and that goes to Jacqueline. So you guys can come see us after we're done to do all that. Can I have all the interns come up here right now, please? Do it now. Yeah. Wait, how do I turn it on? Woo!
Did you get that? I got white. Sweet.
No, you're
Okay. So as you can see up here on the screen, we have a QR code and then a link. So these links and QR codes, they go to a Google form. And basically what this is it's a I Can Help commitment form. So as you're leaving this event today, we don't want you to be done with I Can Help's journey. We want you to stay involved. We want you to follow us. We want you to volunteer to help and come to amazing events like these. So on the form, you'll find a couple of questions. There's going to be questions about which winner inspired you the most, 3 things that we can work on for the event, because coming from someone who was at the Digital for Good event last year at Twitter headquarters, we have grown double in size. So that's incredible, but we can't do it without feedback. So if you guys can give us just a quick little comment right there. And then we have a I will statement. So as you're leaving this event, we want you to have a goal. So what are you going to bring back to your campus? Are you going to take one of these projects and implement it, or something of that sort? So if you could just fill this form out, we'd really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much. All right, now we have some thank you cards that we want to give out. So when I say your name, could you guys please come up here and we'll give you the card and a little gift. Shane. Ruth. Jabari. Jamie. Jess. Kyle. And Clara.
Okay, so throughout today's event, we have seen how these individuals have used their platforms to spread positivity and change in their unique way.
Just as with Sharpie's campaign, we hope that you have all gained a little insight to how you can uncap your own possibilities as you go back to your own community. We encourage you to really think about today's speakers and discussions so that you can reflect on your own community's needs. And now that you are empowered, we challenge you to do the same for those that you already know and that for those that you will meet in the future.
By being here today, you did help. The greatest feeling in the world is knowing you made a difference to help others, but most importantly, making a difference in the world.
Today has been very successful thanks to everyone here and everyone watching the live stream. When you leave today, make sure you keep stepping forward with I Can Help and reflect on what you heard or saw today. Thank you again for helping us make this happen.
Thank you guys.